Welcome back, everybody, to Heated Shenanigans Podcast. And today we have another installment of Superstar Spotlight. Joining me today from California, current independent wrestler Scarlett Rose. Scarlett, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. And yourself?
Oh, cold. It's it's unbearably cold here in Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah, it's cold here, but it's not as cold as over there. It's definitely cold for me.
What do you guys got for a temperature right now?
It's like 64 degrees during the day.
God, right now that would be a heat wave with what we've got going on.
Yeah, I figured, but that's cold when you're used to like 72 during the day.
That's fair. So let's get into this here, Scarlett. How long have you been actively wrestling?
I've been actively wrestling shows for a year and 3 months, and I've been training for 2 years and 2 months, I believe.
So you've had 2 years of training, and then you've been on your own for a year and some change?
I've continued training throughout, even doing shows, but like I've been doing live shows for a year and a half almost, yeah.
That's excellent. That's something kind of unheard of. Well, at least in a lot of the wrestling that I discuss. A lot of people don't continue to train after they're out on their own. They kind of just show to show, weekend to weekend. But no, that's awesome. And that's really going to pay off for you in the long run by continuing to train.
Yeah. I always want to get better, and right now my coach is Brian Kendrick, so he has a lot of good insight and a lot of we work with a lot of psychology, which is one of the hardest parts I struggle with.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that you were under the tutelage of Brian Kendrick. Has he been your trainer throughout your entire training?
No, the last 7 months. So a good portion about when I really started trying to take it really seriously. I feel like the first year of it, I was not really sure exactly what I wanted to do with it, I come from a martial arts background, so I was doing this as something new and fun to do, and I really did enjoy doing it, but I never imagined that I would do a live show.
So what was it like when you first got out there in front of the crowd? A lot of butterflies?
So funny story. My first show, I just kind of got thrown into it. They're like, "Oh, you're going to be wrestling this show." I'm like, they didn't even ask me. They're just like, "You're going to be wrestling this show." I'm like, okay, are you sure? Are you sure you want me to wrestle? he's like, yeah, I think you're ready. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, we'll see how this goes, And the day of the show, I ended up puking twice because I was so nervous. Because stage fright is a real thing for me. I hated going in the front of the class, doing speeches and stuff like that. It definitely got better when I went through college and stuff like that, but I still, the very first show, it was such a wreck. I was backstage, and then I was like, oh, I don't feel good, and just, throwing. Thank God I only had water in my stomach at that point. I ate in the morning, but I kind of was, really busy throughout the day, setting up the ring, setting up everything. I didn't really eat a lot, so that was good. But yeah, that was my real, first show. It was...
Well, that's awesome. I mean, not vomiting everywhere. That's not awesome, but that you got out there and to get the first show under your belt. So out there in California, man, there's so many awesome opportunities out there in California for professional wrestling. What's the scene like out there in California for wrestling for you?
Very big. There's a lot of smaller promotions everywhere. Specifically where I live in Santa Maria, there's one. So I have to travel a minimum usually of like 2 hours to 3 hours or more to go to a show. So it's a lot of traveling for me because I don't live in like San Jose and I don't live in Los Angeles where that's like the epicenters of like wrestling is. So, and wrestling is very split in the state, like because it's so long. So like there's Northern California wrestlers and then there's Southern California wrestlers and then there's my area, which I wrestle both. So I get a little bit of the styles of each. Like the styles are different, which is kind of interesting. It's like California has two different like wrestling styles, and like Texas is completely different. Like I wrestled over in Texas, and their style is different. Their terms are different for different things. So,
So when you say different for California, give me an example of the two different types of styles.
I feel like Northern California is more heavy hitting, harder, like more into like shoot wrestling or like more like I forgot what the style is called, like the specific term for it. It's like
Strong
the
style?
strong style. And I feel like the Southern California is more of like flashy, kind of like very indie stuff. If that makes sense, like very like these are terms that are used to describe it. It's like very like I just want to get my things in and like flip around and do that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of lucha like down in LA because it's closer to the border, so we get a lot of like people from Tijuana coming here and wrestling. Which, yeah, I had those experiences.
That's incredible though, because you kind of get to learn two different styles of wrestling, which is very advantageous when you go to other states and other promotions. When you went to Texas, what promotion in Texas did you work for?
I wrestled for AAPW. It's one of their like school shows that they had, and then I wrestled for another one. I'm not exactly sure. It was kind of this like in a mall. It was kind of like a weird experience, like weird, definitely different experience than anything I've ever experienced. Like I've never wrestled in a mall before, and it was like my first time. Um, but I was able to meet a lot of great people that I still stay in contact. That was looking forward for me to come back and wrestle again. And hopefully this year I'll be wrestling for Dog Pound.
Excellent. So, with you being still incredibly early on into your wrestling career, what type of goals and aspirations do you have for yourself?
So I have like long-term goals and then like short-term goals. Like my short-term goal for this year is to get on TV. If that's if that's like some other one which might happen because Dog Pound is actually televised on TV. Just I think that's my next step. Like I need to get on TV wrestling because TV wrestling is different than indie wrestling. Like in where there's not a hard cam or there isn't moving cams that you have to work because you have a live audience. There's my cat.
Sorry.
you don't have a you do have a live audience, but you're more focused on the cameras because that's where most of the viewers are. So I do want those experiences because that's what I ultimately want to do. Like I want to make it into a big promotion. If that's AEW, if that's Impact, if that's WWE, like I think that is my next step that I need to do is at least get some TV experience.
So, what are some of the more short-term goals that you have for yourself? Long-term being hitting the big time, eventually getting on TV. What other goals would you like to see yourself accomplish?
I want to wrestle also like in other states, like branch out to other states because other states have different styles. Other states have different terms, which allows me to work with more people that are more experienced because there isn't a lot of, in my opinion, seasoned female wrestlers. A lot of the female wrestlers that are here are really new, like me, which is great because it's great to see a lot more females in it, but it doesn't help me because I don't get that experience of working with a seasoned wrestler. Like that can help me progress and get better.
Okay. Is it harder for women to get more bookings in the California area? Because I know here in Indiana, there is a plethora of women's wrestling, and it's kind of hard for some of these girls to all get on shows. I mean, there's only so many matches, only so many spots. Is it like that out there in California as well?
So there isn't. So there's not a ton of wrestlers here. Like female wrestlers, not there's not a like there's not a plethora, but there is a lot of female wrestlers for how many matches they have. Because a lot of shows only has one women's match, so we're stuck with tag team matches or triple threats or stuff like that. Like I rarely ever get one-on-one matches as a female wrestler here because they're trying to get like the women wrestlers that they want in the one match because they only want to do one match because they have, you know, how many umpteen men that want to also be on the show.
Yeah, that's wild. Like, rarely getting any one-on-one matches. Like, do you? I know out here in particular, intergender is starting to get more and more momentum as the years go by. Do you work a lot of intergender matches? Are you asked to work intergender matches?
Yes. I've worked a lot in my home promotion. I work a lot of intergender matches because I think it's hard for my promoter to find females because he is older, and so like the lot of contacts he has in females, the females are retiring. So like I kind of like help out a little bit, be like, oh, you know, I wrestled this female over here and female over here. Like maybe we can work something out and get them, like, you know, get them booked over here so I can like work with some newer people that, you know, aren't men. Like it is great because, you know, I get to, I think I do more things that I probably wouldn't be able to do working with a female because we have to work with like a lot of the time I'm bigger than most female wrestlers. Like I'm not that big. I'm not that tall. I'm not that big. But I seem to always be taller or like bigger than the other like female wrestlers here. So like my move set goes from here to like here just because of size difference and weight difference and if they know how to take the move or that kind of stuff.
But you know that speaks to really how advanced you are in your training, that you are wise enough to adapt your move set to the opponent to get the best possible match. And that says a lot about your training. That's an incredible quality to have.
Yeah. Well, I'm always something that I've always like kind of told to myself, and my trainer always tells me like I always wanted to look the best. I want to do moves that are going to look good. So if you're not comfortable taking the move, I'd rather not do it because then I don't want it to look bad. That makes sense. Like I don't want it to look bad or them not to take it correctly and then it looks bad on me as well. It's not just them, it makes us both look bad. So I personally like staying to a lot of basics because they're simple, they're easy, and then there's some stuff that I do for my shoot wrestling that I used to do. So it's on me to do everything. So like I know how to do it, so then something doesn't get botched and it doesn't look bad. It always like looks good because you know I've been doing these moves for over 10 years, you know. So
So what are some of your favorite moves though to when you get the opportunity to perform them? What ones do you enjoy the most?
I like doing my hip toss that I used to do a lot in wrestling. So basically I could catch the arm, I spin around, boom, hip toss them. That's one of my favorite ones. I also like doing like a power slam, like off the ropes, like a running power slam. And a leg and Larry or a calf kick.
Good.
Those are both of the same moves, different names.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. So when you were getting into professional wrestling and training and going through the process of learning the craft, what were or who were some of your inspirations that you drew from to go forward in training?
I would say she goes by the man, Becky Lynch. There we go. Becky Lynch! I really liked her, like, her style and everything. It was very, like, aggressive and, like, still, like, a baby face, but, like, aggressive baby face, and that's kind of what the style I wanted. And she was, like, pretty much, like, the first female, like, anti-hero that was, you know, created in the WWE. Like, the only other one, or there's a few other ones, but, like, you know, Stone Cold was the other one that was, like, the one that started that whole, like, anti-hero, not really good guy, but not really bad guy. And that's kind of the style I like because of my fighting and everything that I've done. Like, so I can incorporate that kind of stuff. But I do like being a good guy because, like, I like the fans. I love having the, like, kids come up to me and be like, oh, you know, like, I want to be like you someday. You know, like, mainly why I do it. That's the reason why I fell in love with wrestling, was because my very first show, like, I had a bunch of kids, like, coming up to me, like, little girls, oh, I want to be like you someday, like, I want to be doing this and stuff like that, so that's why I continue to wrestle.
So what would you say over all the years of training and your year and change in wrestling already and watching wrestling? What would you say is the best story you have seen told in a wrestling ring? Not necessarily the match, but like the psychology behind it.
I personally, I really like watching, like, the Attitude Era and the whole, like, Stone Cold. I think that was, like, the most, like, interesting, like, thing ever. Like, when I watch it, because I'm like, he did such a simple thing, and he made it, like, the move, and he made it, like, even when he was injured, he was, like, bringing the people in, like, not even just on his wrestling, just because of his talking or waiting for the stunner, and I thought it was really great and something that, like, probably will never be, like, created again, because it was definitely a certain time that it was done that fit perfectly. I also watched, I forgot who it was, but it was, like, Ric Flair and this other wrestler where they used to travel, like, from city to city wrestling each other. Like, I forgot what it was, but it was, like, a whole documentary about this series of the matches that they had, and I thought it was very interesting to see how, like, wrestling has definitely changed. And I've also watched some, like, older matches that are, like, black and white and, like from French and stuff like that, which is super interesting, and, like, how very, very simple wrestling used to be. Like, headlock takeover, get back up, headlock again, headlock takeover, and, like, people were eating it up, and it's like, how did we go from there to, like, how wrestling is now, which is, like, completely different. Like, you wouldn't even think it would be the same sport, because it was definitely different. Like, when I watched the wrestling that's in black and white, I'm just like, it looked more realistic. It looked like a legit fight, like what you see in MMA. Like, one person isn't just beating up the other person, and then the next wrestler beats up the next one. It's like back and forth. Kind of, you see the struggle of, like, what the moves are.
That's excellent. I really appreciate that take. One thing I definitely wanted to ask, so when a company books you, what is one thing that you bring to either the locker room or out to the show itself that you feel helps set you apart from anyone else?
I think I think I think I'm different because I always want to keep everything simple. Like, if, like, I meet a lot of wrestlers who want to do a lot of, like, complex moves or stuff that, like, maybe I've never taken before, and I'm like, I've never taken this, I don't feel comfortable. Oh no, it's fine, it's super easy. It's like, I don't want to botch this. Like, I don't want us to look bad. So, like, I don't mind keeping it simple. my cat. He's very attached to me.
Oh, it's okay.
I like keeping things simple. Like, so everything looks clean and crisp, and everything I do has meaning. And everything I do looks really good. If that makes sense. Like, when I do my suplex into a back arch, it looks good. Like, it looks good. When I flip up into a choke, it looks good. And I think of a lot of bookers who see that, you know, like they see that and they want me back. My dog. They want me back because I, you know how to kind of put a match together, and even though that it's not super crazy flippy moves all the time, I know how to make something that makes sense and my moves look good. If that makes any sense. Like, I think that's
100%.
different than a lot of people, because people don't want the match to be boring. And I get that a lot. Like, oh, I don't want the match to be boring. I don't want my moves that I do is boring. It's like, if you have meaning behind it, it's not boring. If you have a reason to fight, it's not boring.
And I would 100% agree with you. I mean, also, like, to the taking moves, you want to take moves that you're comfortable with because you don't want to hurt yourself or somebody else. There's a lot that goes into that. You've got to look out for yourself just as you do your opponent.
Yeah.
Real quick, though, before we go ahead and wrap this up, and I want to say you have been a phenomenal guest. I really enjoyed having you on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What social media would you like to promote, and do you have any upcoming appearances that fans can catch you at? Let people know how they can reach out to you, and additionally, booking information as well.
So you can reach out to me on Instagram at the Cruipars with 2 S's. I think that's what it is. So, and also on Facebook. I don't think there's an app for that, but just look up Scarlett Rose, the Queen of Hearts. It should pop up. I will be wrestling for a belt here soon. Fingers crossed. In Oxnard at Real Mexican Wrestling. That'll be coming up in February 19th, I believe. I just got booked for it, so just a couple days ago. I'll also be wrestling in my hometown again in Santa Maria, California. That'll be on the 17th, I believe. Dates I have everything in my calendar, and once I get it, I put it in there, and that's where it is. But yeah, that's my most upcoming matches I have.
Excellent. All right, well, guys, again, before we wrap this up, this has been the newest edition of Superstar Spotlight featuring Scarlett Rose. Guys, I would highly recommend going out and booking Scarlett for your upcoming shows, especially if you're looking for female talent. I know some areas it is incredibly hard to find female talent, but guys, after listening to this young lady knows exactly what she's doing. She has been very well trained. Highly recommend booking Scarlett for your upcoming show. And we will see you guys on the next episode of Heated Shenanigans Podcast. You guys all have a great week out there.